Joining me now is Michael Henning, who was just metres from one of the attackers when they detonated a bomb near Aldgate station. Michael, really glad to have you with us. Thanks for joining us this evening. How have the last 20 years been for you?
It's been a hellish journey, really. It's been interesting. You think after 20 years it would diminish, but it feels so real, and today with the commemorations it felt as if it was happening again. I stood on Aldgate station this morning, and the commuters who were actually going through sort of disappeared from my mind, and I could see everything that was happening on the day.
Really vivid memories. Just describe to people watching what your experience was that day 20 years ago.
I got on the Circle Line train, and I was standing because I was only going 2 stops, and suddenly everything changed. Everything was normal. I was 7 feet from Tanweer when he detonated his bomb, and suddenly I was consumed in a cloud of yellow and orange, and I remember these silver zigzag lines going across my vision, and asking myself, what was this? What was this? I asked myself 3 times more firmly as I went on, and then I answered myself, it's a bomb. And a classic bit of understatement, I said, that's not good. And then I thought I was dead because it was dark. I hadn't realised I was on the ground. It was deadly silent. I think the shock initially silences everyone. And then I put my hand to my face and I felt the blood, and I thought it was not quite over yet. And then the emergency lighting came on, and there was lots of panic screams. And I'd been on a plane that had filled with smoke before, so I knew what panic did. So whilst I was trying to get to my feet, I was telling people to calm down, and brilliantly they did. But I won't give you too much more detail, but when they quietened down, you could hear the whimpers of those that were really badly injured, and that has never left me.
Yeah. What do you think of how the emergency services responded that day?
I think and I was with many of them today, the frontline emergency services were brilliant. They were absolutely fantastic on the day. As the inquest, the 7/7 inquest revealed, there was a number of problems and delays with certain sectors of the emergency services, but I would emphasise that wasn't the frontline people's fault. That was senior officers holding them back, protocols holding them back. And I remember at the inquest, one of the policemen that came down onto the Aldgate track was trying to encourage one of the emergency services to come down, but they said they hadn't had the all clear. And he actually stood on the electric line to demonstrate that it was off.
It's tricky in hindsight, isn't it, to remember what life was like before this kind of thing happened in London. Since then, terror attacks have sadly happened several times since as well. Westminster Bridge springs to mind, Borough Market as well in London, of course, others, especially in Manchester. You've had difficult times since then, haven't you? I know you've got PTSD, you've had some really dark moments as a result.
Yeah, and I spent time with survivors who are still struggling today. I was lucky I managed to work my way through PTSD, but it took a few years. And sadly, there's many survivors who didn't make it to today. It just got too much to them, and I came close to that myself. But we are a family. You saw that today at the commemoration. We still feel the pain as if it happened yesterday. And people have different suffering, whether they're bereaved or they have terrible life-changing injuries, or their injuries are invisible, and many still struggle today.
Do anniversaries like today help at all, Michael, or is it almost overwhelming how much it brings back from 2005?
It is overwhelming, but there's a plus side as well. I was able to meet up with many today, and they're the most kind-hearted people, despite what they've been through. They want inclusion in this country. They don't want the terrorists to win, but it wasn't about anger or revenge. It was all about being there for each other. And you could see today the sad loss and the pain, and we laid flowers at the memorial today in Hyde Park. And it was very difficult to see because the amount of pain people suffered. And it just reminded me that the terrorists didn't win. They didn't damage the state. They didn't change foreign policy. They were cowards because they attacked unarmed civilians, and all they did was rip the lives apart of ordinary people who didn't have defence, didn't have security. And it was very, very hard to take.
There's some other incredible stories from that day. I interviewed here on Sky News Adrian Hiley yesterday, who was on the tube train at Edgware Road. And Adrian miraculously already had, because of his military career, experience of dealing with trauma, and ran to help lots of people, saved lives. And it occurred to me that quite often after we see the worst of humanity, we very quickly see the best of it as well. Is that your experience?
Absolutely. People were absolutely brilliant that day. They risked everything to help everyone else. Some were totally shocked and couldn't do much, and that's fair enough. It affects people in different ways, but I found that even if people are in shock, they could take instruction, and we all worked together to help ourselves and protect people and do what we can. But like any survivor of that day, we all feel guilty that perhaps we could have done more. And the gentleman you referred to, the army medic, he did a great job, and he saved the life of a fantastic individual, Daniel Biddle, who's got the most resilient attitude and to be admired. And he holds him very closely that he saved his life.
Michael, many of us are lucky that we haven't experienced what you've experienced, and hopefully never will. But are there things that the rest of us can learn about your experience here, how you've approached life since this happened, how you've tried to get past it?
Well, I come and I thought after 20 years you'd get past it. It will always be part of you, that pain, that experience, what you saw. You can't unsee it. I was always very careful in any interview or with therapists never to tell them what I saw. I tell them enough. You don't need that to know that. It does teach you some valuable life lessons. It teaches you what's important. It lets go of the small stuff, and it gives you always the greatest perspective. And it just shows what anger and hate can do. And I know we have certain elements in this country who want to cause division, but to see the survivors, the bereaved, how much they wanted to bring everything together and the love in their hearts was amazing.
Michael, I'm really grateful you could talk to us about it this evening. Glad you're with us still as well. Michael Henning, thank you so much.
Thank you.